Welcome to today's, it's actually a quarterly webinar, and this one is about Koha, and it's just more about generically how it covers all needs for libraries from tiny to huge. So a bit about Koha itself. No one knows for sure how many are registered as Koha users. There are over 6,000 that are actually registered on library technology pages, but there is the assumption that there will be many more as solo instances. So this is a neat little map that shows you how many instances of Koha that are actually registered across the world, and which is probably a small proportion of the actual users of Koha. So it's a very socially equitable choice, is Koha, because it's free to download and use. And it's very light in terms of the server needs as well, because it is based on Linux, which has much less server demands than, say, a Microsoft product. That makes it very popular across the globe where there's not the funding available for other library management systems. All versions of Koha are available free. So if someone helps sponsor a development, then those tiny libraries across the world will also benefit from those developments, which is why we say it's very socially equitable. It's also better for the planet, of course, because those small server demands mean less impact. There have been 25 years of development of Koha, which means that it has pretty much has everything you need and more. It covers all the usual things that you would expect in a library system. So this is the PTFS Europe one. I'm just going to turn staff off, although that is quite interesting. We're quite spread out, as you can see. We've got Pedro here in the Azores, and we've got two of our directors that are in the States. But if I turn that off and focus more on Europe, you can see we have got a few here in the Middle East, but we mainly have Europe and the UK. And these are colour coordinated by the type of library as well. So as you can see, we've got an awful lot of health. We have quite a lot of academic libraries as well, and publics, and even some little specials as well. So as I said, we support mainly in UK and Europe, but there are support companies which support Koha across the world. So with Koha, this gives you the ability to be completely hands-on, self-managed, solo instances of Koha, right through to the extreme of taking on a support company like ourselves, and you don't have to worry about anything. We cover all your service and support. So a bit about Koha itself now. So all the modules are, of course, available to you, and these can be turned off by user permissions. And on integration, you actually only pay for the modules that you want training in. So you don't have to pay for training for modules you won't use. So the main areas are circulation, which is stock management, interlibrary loans as well, cataloguing, which includes search and course reserves, acquisitions, which includes budgets and EDI, things like that, reports, which also covers audit, Koha administration, serials, and the very latest module that was added is e-resource management. So upgrades are annual and part of your annual fee if you are with us at PTFS Europe. There are 2 releases of Koha a year, but here we like to work through release 1, which is in May. We check against our customers' customizations, and we work on bugs with the community. We're then much more confident in bringing our customers onto the final release, which is in November. We advertise the changes that are available, the new modules, the new improvements, well in advance, and this usually happens at some point in the spring. And our customers then pick their ideal upgrade time in the year, which is usually from about April onwards. So the benefits of Koha really are that it integrates with many more products than a lot of the other providers. The only restriction to whether we can provide an integration is whether the provider themselves is open to it. It's usually cheaper than other systems. And with a supplier, you have less need for on-site IT support and any developer knowledge. We would do all that for you. It grows with you because there are no extra charges for adding people or even new library sites. The very responsive systems, usually less than 2 seconds response time for any one click within Koha. It's great for reports. Unusually, you can report on absolutely all the data in the Koha system. And you have the benefit of a worldwide community that shares all their reporting ideas with you too. With PTFS Europe, you can get developers who are at the global forefront of the Koha developments. So the things that you would like tend to get added quicker. And you can be assured that we will never develop any Koha code that is proprietary. We always share back to the whole global community. And finally, you know that we are very serious about data protection and information security, as we have all the latest certifications to prove that too. So that was like a background to Koha, but I'm going to move on to show you, well, Fiona's going to show you some actual physical examples of some of our libraries. But first of all, just to give you an indication of what Fiona's going to show you some examples of. So these are current customers of PTFS Europe, and we have small and special libraries, quite a lot of those too. We have very medium to large libraries, a lot of those are academic. And then we have the very large and consortia libraries, and we have a lot of the health libraries and the public libraries that fall into that category. So I think I'm going to pass on to Fiona, who's going to show you some of the examples.
Hopefully you can see that. So yeah, as Sam mentioned in her background slides there, that Koha is very, very scalable, and that means that it fits into a library of any shape and size. So as Sam alluded to, we do have some very specialist, some very small libraries ranging from sort of one librarian in place to very large scale consortia libraries with many staff and many users. But fundamentally, they are all using the same Koha Library Management System. So each customer gets their own server, which is hosted from us, and they get their own version of Koha installed on it. Then how they utilise it is entirely up to them. So I'm just picking a few examples from Sam's slides to show you how, how different customers have branded it. So we're going to look at some of the smaller ones first of all. We've got the College of Optometrists on screen here. This is a professional body for optometrists. So they fall sort of in between a membership organisation type special library and verging onto sort of the health sector-ish, but they are very small in scale. They only got a couple of members of staff, but they've got a lovely looking OPAC which they maintain themselves as well. So you can see that they've got their logo in place, they've got their search bar, allowing them to come in and execute a search on the system. They can go into the advanced search area. They've got links into things like browsing their ebook collection, and the whole look and feel of this is just consistent with their whole website, with the header and the footer bar and so on. If I move on and have a look at another one that was on Sam's slide, this is Lambda. So this is actually a sort of dramatic arts institution, so it does fall into the academic sector, but they're very, very small in scale. They've only got a couple of members of staff, not a huge student base. But again, they're using their own Koha system, and they've branded it in a slightly different way. So although they still fall into that small scale, they look quite different to the optometrists. So for example, what you can see on screen here is that they've got a cover flow area, which the user can scroll through, and so on. If they're interested in a particular record, they can click onto that. They've got lots of links down the left-hand side here, and an option to email the library. And again, they've got this option at the top here to search the catalogue, as I showed you before, but also an additional search feature that they've sort of plugged in, which allows them to do a wider search across some library resources. Again, all using Koha. Looking at a couple of our academic sites that we sort of classify as being medium scale, we've got Plymouth Marjon University. I like to show this site actually because I think it is nice and clean looking, but they've done quite a lot with it. They've got these nice big buttons for their students to come in and do interlibrary loans and such like. They've also got a cover flow rotating around the middle of their screen. Lots of links down the left-hand side, but they've also got some embedded areas into here as well to their social media site and so on. And then again, some explanatory text for students and the footer information. So again, retaining that consistency with the university. Now, Plymouth Marjon University do use EBSCO Discovery Service. So they are a little bit unique here as well, where they've got their default set to catalogue, so that will search the Koha catalogue, so search the the printed material and everything that they've got catalogued on Koha. But optionally, people can switch to Discovery so that they can execute a search on EDS as well. So that's a plugin that we've got. And if I just show you how that will work, I'm just going to do a search for tiger because I can see that in front of me in this book here. Search in the catalogue, I get 35 results from the library catalogue, and I've got the filters on the left-hand side, all relevant to the Koha limiting criteria. If I switch to Discovery and do the same search, it's now going to spin around and give me my hits for what it finds in the EBSCO Discovery Service. And as you would imagine, it's a considerably higher number. And you can see on the left-hand side here that the facets have changed and they now match what's within the EBSCO Discovery Service. So I thought it was useful just to demonstrate how some of our customers use plugins with their Koha system as well, so that in this case interrogating a third-party system but through the Koha Library Management System. University of the Arts London, as their name suggests, they're very arty and they have quite a visually appealing looking OPAC as well. Again, just another, you can see cookie consent on the top, useful links down the left-hand side, footer information, and they've got a live chat widget embedded in as well, and they've also got their Instagram feed embedded. So it just gives you some ideas as to what some of our customers have done. Now, Sam also mentioned that we've got some large-scale public libraries, health libraries and consortium, and I just want to show you two examples. One is a college and one is a health library that operate in a consortium type environment and let you see how they've set theirs up. So I'm going to start with London Health Libraries. Now, this particular consortium, London Health Libraries, encompasses health regions throughout the London boroughs. And there's quite a lot of different libraries contained within this one single system. So what London Health Libraries wanted to do was for each of their individual libraries to have their own OPAC. So if I show you this example, first of all, you can see that they've got their own URL here. This is Lewisham, and it defaults to LGT libraries, Lewis and Greenwich Trust libraries here. So the way that the setup's been done here is that this particular OPAC is scoped for an individual library and will retrieve results from that library initially, but they can drill down and select any other library within the consortium if they wish. You can see that they've got resources available on the left-hand side, and they've got a cover flow area in the middle as well. Whereas if I toggle on to this next one, this is BARTS, and you can see that it's scoped accordingly to BARTS with its own URL, and it's slightly different as well in terms of appearance. So that's one example. If I just show you a different type, so we've also got, and Sam had these on our, had this customer on our slides as well. It's Newcastle College Group. Now, Newcastle College Group is made up of 7 further education colleges, actually throughout England, not just within the Newcastle area. And again, they had a requirement that they wanted each of the college to retain their own identity, but share a single system. So they've got one Koha system, one Koha server with one Koha installed, so that the stock can be shared amongst all the colleges, but each one of the colleges has their own OPAC. Now, as you can see, there's not a huge amount of visual appeal to this, but it just sort of serves the purpose anyway. So this is Newcastle College, blue banner, red backgrounds behind their search bar and their little Newcastle College logo on here. And again, they've got their own defined URL. And another one of the colleges in the group is Carlisle College. So once again, they've got their own URL. They've not got a header bar in this case. They've got their college logo and they've got purple behind the search bar. So there's different ways of approaching it if you're within a consortium environment. You can have a single front end for all your users, or you can have multiple front ends, either searching across all the libraries at one time, branded completely separately, or you can have, you know, it's scoped accordingly as well. So that was a quick look at the OPACs. I'm just going to spend the last 5 minutes or so giving you a whistle-stop overview tour of the staff interface. Now, Koha is fully web-based system, so accessible through a browser URL. You have to log in, so you have to be a valid library staff user, and your login then dictates what access you have into the system. So I'm conscious of time. I'd already logged in because you can enable 2-factor authentication as well. So just to avoid having to do all of that, I'd logged in advance. But what we can see from here is if I look at the right-hand side, you can see my login details, my login name, which library I belong to. And because I have workstation tools attached to my Koha system, it's showing you the cash register there. I can come into the menu option here and I can change my library and cash register, and I've got shortcuts into things like my account and so on. Now, I'm actually logged in as a super librarian, so I do have access to all areas. That's shown in the permission set, which I'll show you in just a second. So that does mean I have access to all these modules. Now, Sam also mentioned in her slides that you know, with Koha, you do get everything, but then what you actually utilize is up to you and how you set up your permissions. So for example, if you're a library that would never use the library management system for acquisitions purposes, then you would not see that button on the screen. And equally, you would probably only see Koha administration area if you had those administrative type permissions. So you can use your home screen for any purpose that you want. So we've got things in here like task lists. We've got a dashboard here that we're prompted to act upon, and we've got some shortcuts into some reports and such like in here to save the member of staff having to go out to the reports module. So you've got access to the modules here, and again at the top of the screen here with extras under more. So you've got sort of the most commonly used ones appearing at the top and everything else under more. Koha also has this, what we call an omnibox. So it shows the most commonly, what it thinks to be the most common features for where you are appearing on this screen here. So from the home screen, we can immediately go to checkout, or we can search the catalogue, we can search patrons, etc. Again, to avoid you having to go into the buttons. It is context sensitive, however, so if I toggle into acquisitions, you can see it now changes to offer me a vendor or an order search. So it's always sort of trying to offer you the easiest shortcuts. Over on the right-hand side, you've got this help area. So this is context-sensitive help, which will open up the manual for me at the page where you're working with. So it's opened at the contents page for me because I'm at the home page. If I was in, for example, in the cataloguing page and I hit the help button, you can see it takes me directly to the cataloguing area. Now, just to quickly show you how this works as well, I'm just going to search the catalogue. I'm just going to do a simple search for Harry Potter. And you get your facets down the left-hand side to filter. You get your results, how many it finds. You can edit the search and you can search within the results as well. And if we scroll down a little bit here, you can see some book covers appearing, and you can see that you've got some availability information over the right-hand side. I'm going to pick this one just as an example because it's got multiple copies. And once I've opened it up, you can see you get a lot more information appearing than we did on the results page. And you can see that this item has a hold against it, represented by the toggle there, and also from the menu option on the left-hand side. The reason I specifically chose this one is because if you're in a consortium type environment as well, or even if you're just in a multi-branch library, one of the features you might want to utilise within Koha is the separation of the holdings. So again, if I just come back up and remind you, I'm logged in at the main library. So what this display is doing is showing me that what's in my library. So I've got 3 items within my library, but I've also got a tab for other holdings, and it'll show me what's within other libraries within the same system as well. So that's quite handy. You can drill down, so you can see this audio visual material here. It's actually checked out and it's very overdue. But I could drill down and I could go into this user record and have a look at the user record from here. I've also got a hyperlink to the item, so I could go in and edit any item information from there too. And also, of course, in the bibliographic data, we do have hyperlinks allowing us to click on them and go and execute search based on those keywords. The display within Koha is very consistent. This is a sort of table view. You can toggle your columns accordingly by clicking on the little arrows. You can search within tables, and you've got this kind of tabbed display as well. You've also got the ability to specify your columns. So if you think that spine label, we'd never use the spine label here, I can actually just switch that off and it disappears from display. And people with administrative permissions can set them up globally. And I think just to finish, I just wanted to come into my account. So I could also search for me, but I'm just going to take the shortcut into my account. And just to show you the consistent display. So down at the bottom, we've got list of checkouts, again, within the table, and I can switch the columns on and off. I can sort the columns, and I've got the tabbed display as well, and also the menu options on the left hand side. So we're being consistent throughout. And finally, I mentioned the permission set. So if I have a look at the permissions on my user record, you can see here I've got access to all librarian functions. So I have got super librarian permissions, but you can see that they're quite granular. So here's the acquisition management, for example. If I click on show details, I can assign permissions to a staff member at the group level, which means they get all of these permissions, or I can pick and choose which permissions a member of staff should get as well. So it's very flexible, highly configurable, and again, just to reiterate, is absolutely scalable for libraries of any shape and size and sector and industry.